So let's dig into the attacks that happened in Iran on the 3rd of January 2024. So today on the 4th, CCTV footage came out showing that at the very least, the first explosion in Kerman was a suicide attack. And then shortly after that detail came forward, there was a statement on the affiliated channels run by ISIS/ISIL/Daesh, which essentially claimed responsibility and that both attacks were suicide bombings. The statement that was published by the Salafi jihadist terror group said that the goal of the attack was to kill as many Rafidas, which is their statement for Shiite Muslims, and quote-unquote polytheists as possible at Iran's General Soleimani's tomb. And so then there was an excerpt that I found published by Lucas Weber on the Militant Wire on the 1st of January that kind of made this make a little bit more sense. So he's quoted as saying, quote, "Over the past few days, multiple Islamic State Khorasan Province, or ISKP, linked external operations have been foiled, demonstrating a further expansion of the branch's ambitions to internationalize and strike enemies located outside of the Afghanistan-Pakistan base. ISKP-connected plots have been disrupted in India, Iran, Germany, Austria, Spain, the Maldives, Qatar, Turkey, and Kyrgyzstan. ISKP has successfully conducted attacks inside Iran, and it is likely that more will slip through over time in other countries," unquote. And sure enough, 2 days after that publication came through, we saw that the attack happened in Iran, and ISIL, Daesh was responsible for that. And it appears that this has been a part of a strategic group of attempts at targeting, in part, Shiite Muslims, Taliban members, and other Muslim groups that ISIS kind of considers religiously deviant from their values. Now, Shia Muslims have been persecuted by the Islamic State, which is an extremist group, since about 2014. This has taken place in Iraq, Syria, and multiple other places throughout the world. Now, despite being the religious majority in Iraq, Shia Muslims have been killed and otherwise persecuted by ISIS, which is a Sunni group. We also know that the Islamic State has targeted Christians and Yazidis in northern Iraq on a historic scale, putting entire communities at risk of being wiped off of the map of Iraq. In a report that was released on the 2nd of September 2014, Amnesty International described how ISIL had, quote, systematically targeted non-Sunni Muslim populations, killing or abducting hundreds, possibly thousands of individuals, and forcing more than tens of thousands of Shias, Sunnis, along with other minorities to flee the area or areas that it had captured since the 10th of June 2014. So I find it interesting that during their statement, ISIS members essentially said, they made a very bold claim about wiping off all Jewish people from the map, which is obviously something that they hold quite strongly to with their religious beliefs. But in addition to that, the current war in Israel against Hamas is not entirely supported by ISIS. Like, they actually came forward with a statement saying that they look at Hamas and Hezbollah as bad groups. Like, they denounced Hamas publicly. And back in 2015, Hamas and Hezbollah did the same in response to ISIS due to the religious differences in their beliefs. The ISIS group, or the Islamic State, sees the group in the Gaza Strip and the West Bank, Hamas, as being a heavily nationalistic group rather than religiously oriented. There is religion behind it, but a lot more of it has to do, I think, with nationalism and fighting over land and districts and governing authority rather than religious beliefs. They utilize the religious beliefs, but as Islamic State members have stated, that's not like the goal is the religion, right? So it's interesting to see at this time that when this war is happening, rather than unifying different groups of Muslims, it's actually driving a wedge deeper between them. And obviously we're going to keep our eyes open for further movement that happens over the next bit with regards to how the Islamic State is going to move globally, because clearly, as noted, there have been a number of plots in multiple places. Like I said, India, Iran, Germany, Austria, Spain, the Maldives, Qatar, Turkey, Kyrgyzstan, all of these places have been or have had plots foiled. And then just recently, we've seen the attack happen in Iran. So intelligence groups do well to keep their eyes open for movement of religious extremism in their countries.